Update. My daughter chose her stepdad to walk her down the aisle. Original post. I, 46 male, have one daughter, 26 female, whose mom ran off when she was 7 and came back when she was 15, claiming she wanted a relationship. She gave it a chance and apparently got really close to her new stepdad. Apparently, he's a really cool guy and likes similar things to her, like hockey, and also plays guitar, like my daughter. I initially thought that it was great she was bonding with her stepdad and her mom. Now she's getting married to her fiancé, 30 male, who she has been dating for 4 years. I pitched in for the wedding, as did her mom, upwards of $25,000. The day fast approaching, and she told me she has chosen her stepdad to walk her down the aisle, as they have really bonded over the past 11 years. I didn't say anything at the time, but I have already decided that I will not be going, as I won't be disrespected like this. If she wants to be a happy family with her mom who abandoned her for 8 years, go for it, but count me out. It wasn't either of them who went to all her hockey games. It wasn't them who paid for her tutoring for exams. It wasn't them who went through the financial hardship of working 3 jobs until she was 17 to support both of us. And it wasn't them who was here when she got her milestones. It was me. I won't be telling her I'm not coming. I just won't show. Now for the comments before reading the update. Why can't both dads walk her down the aisle? Who says things have to be traditional? I ain't walking with that man. I've literally never spoken to him. And she said she wants him. Never did say she wants both of us. I can only assume it's because stepdad got to be the fun dad. He didn't have any real responsibility. She'll figure it out when she really needs help, and mom and stepdad have that confused look on their faces. At 26, she should be old enough to not just be picking the fun dad. Agree, that's middle school garbage. Honor your father, especially because he's not the one who ran out. Why not tell her how it makes you feel? Why not ask why you're not the one she thinks of when thinking of a father? You can still do what you want, but at least have the talk. You know, this is absolutely what I wanted to verbalize and couldn't find the words for. OP, only when we stop participating in the conversation do we truly lose our loved ones. You shouldn't have to beg, you shouldn't have to bring this up, but I tend to see stupidity where others see malice. Ask your daughter point blank, why do you not see me as a father? And I'd bet money she'd get the surprise Pikachu face, because this literally never occurred to her. The question can open a lot of dialogue about your relationship, the work you put in, and what it took for her to be where she is. Also, given how blasé it sounds like she told you, it might be something her mother suggested, and she's just going along with it, not realizing the magnitude of the insult. You can absolutely from there say, I'm sorry that I wasn't a father figure you wanted. I did my best, but if this is what you want, then it is your day. I hope you have a good life. When you don't show up for the wedding or even respond to her calls and texts, she will know how badly she messed up. But if you don't talk to her, you will be cutting off your nose to spite your face. I have seen something similar to this play out twice, and at this point, I think the pain is just too much to bring up. First, a son, raised by a single mother for his entire 18 years, has struggled. She was mildly crazy, but damn if she didn't do her best. Dad comes back in, is the fun dad, and son changes his last name next year from mom's to dad's. Second, a daughter raised by her grandmother also for all 18 years, but mom comes back into the picture after 18 years of on and off heroin use, and suddenly grandma's off her rocker, and she prefers to hang out with mom. Neither parent brought it up, and I just don't think either of them could bring themselves to do it. I'd send her this post. It tells her how you feel and how I'm sure a lot of people agree with your sentiment, especially since you helped $25K for the wedding. She isn't 11 choosing a weekend with him over you. She is an adult, and this is a hopefully one-time event. She is saying he is more important to her. It's insanely disrespectful, especially since you're essentially a single parent for so long. You need to let her know this isn't a small deal. I wouldn't send this post. It was written from a place of frustration and deep hurt. Looks like he needed to blow off steam here anonymously. But for the love of God, a civil conversation about emotional issues with your children goes a long way. Now for the update. So I took your guys' advice and I spoke with my daughter and decided that even if she didn't change her mind, I wouldn't miss her wedding or cut her off. I spoke to her and let her know that what she's choosing to do hurt me, and that if she still wants her stepdad to walk her down the aisle, that is her choice. I won't be there, but will still be supporting her. She said she still wants me there, but that her mom has apparently said she wants stepdad to walk her down the aisle as a way of accepting him to the family. She said that if she refuses, she won't be coming, and neither will stepdad, and they will never speak to her again. I ask if she is really someone she wants in her life, setting demands to maintain her relationship. And you'll never guess who I got a furious call from. Her mother. She was saying I manipulated my daughter into saying she never wanted to see them again, and uninvited them. I will be in 3 months' time walking my daughter down the aisle. Happy for you, but don't trust that your ex won't try to interfere and manipulate your daughter. Also, your daughter needs to be on the lookout for the manipulations to continue and not fall for it again. I'm going to back this up, because by what her mom has done, she shouldn't be trying to tell her daughter what she should be doing for her wedding. We don't really know if she will try again or not, but it's always good to be safe. Thirding this, the mommy here sounds very manipulative and selfish, and people like that tend to keep going or escalate, both in my direct experience and based on what I've learned in therapy. I'm glad Opie and his daughter are able to communicate well and seem to have a really solid bond. Stay on your toes. A lot can happen in 3 months, but if stepdad was any kind of man, he would have refused the offer in the first place. I'd agree, but we don't know what the mom may have told stepdad about the ex. If she's willing to go no contact with her daughter over this, there's no saying what she tells everyone about the ex. So maybe stepdad thought he was doing the right thing. Who knows? I just hope Opie and everyone else there remembers this is the daughter and her spouse's day, and to make decisions in her best interest as much as possible. She's probably stressed to the gills over the mom already. I know I would be. Anyone who wants to live with that kind of woman is either evil himself or very submissive. I bet on second. Am I the a-hole for running away from home? Original post. I, 15 female, will be a junior in high school once the new school year starts. I have a little brother I'll call Matt, 3 male. My parents both work full-time jobs in the business district. I was a planned baby, but Matt wasn't. My parents considered putting him up for adoption, but couldn't do it. They don't know I know this. Once my mom ended her maternity leave 2 weeks early, there was a schedule who would watch Matt when. Mom leaves for work at 4:30 a.m., waking me up on the way. I watch Matt until I need to go to school at 7, and by that time my dad is up and takes over. I get home from school at 3:45 p.m., and my dad leaves for his work at no later than 4 p.m. I watch him till my mom gets home at 6 p.m. For the first year, that's how it went, and I was fine with that. Now, my mom has shifted her hours to work later, so I watch Matt till he sleeps, and I can't sleep till my mom gets home, which is usually 10 to 11 at night. On top of that, I do anything that needs doing at home. I'm in AP classes and have my homework to do as well. Matt's not very well behaved, as he's had health issues since birth that caused him discomfort. He's a toddler, and I get that, but his tantrums and general demeanor make it hard for me to get things done. The 2 things that tore me down most happened a week before school ended back in May. I managed to talk to my mom and ask her if we could please hire a sitter to look after Matt. I want to take on some extracurriculars. Her response was they didn't need to waste money on that because they had me. 2 days later, my mom got home at 5 p.m., which early for her, and after eating dinner, told me to ask the school if I could shorten my class load next year in order to spend more time at home, since my dad also apparently wants to shift his hours. I told her no, and she got mad saying I needed to be more understanding and accepting. I had enough and blew up. I can't remember what all was said, but I do remember yelling that I wasn't my little brother's parent. Stormed to my room, stuffed some things in my backpack, and left while my mom was distracted by my brother. I'm safe. I called my grandmother and explained what was going on. She and my mother are estranged, but we managed to stay close. Once she picked me up and got the details, she said she understood. My parents blew up my phone, demanding I come home and telling me I should be ashamed of acting this way. My grandmother blocked their numbers. She did talk to them, and they agreed I can stay where I'm at until I get my head on straight. I feel guilty for leaving my brother, but at the same time, I feel so worn out. Other family weighed in, and while most are on my side, others say I need to accept my duties in the family and suck it up. I'm conflicted and don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole for running away? Not the a-hole. You're with a relative. I wouldn't count that as an actual runaway. They all know where you are and you're safe. I completely agree with you. You are not your brother's keeper. They are wanting you to risk your education for a child that isn't yours. Can you stay with your grandma during school? I talked to my grandmother about that, and she would be willing to take me in, but I'm not sure how my mom and dad would respond. Does your grandmother live within the same school district as your parents? Or would you have to switch schools in order to live with her? As long as she lives in the same district and you don't have to switch schools, there shouldn't be an issue with updating the school about your living situation, meaning emergency contacts. Your school guidance counselor may even be able to help with any paperwork that's needed by the main office of your school. Not the a-hole. You're still a kid. You shouldn't be dealing with so much responsibility. You didn't sign up to be their unpaid babysitter. You're literally losing your childhood because your parents think you have to be responsible for your brother when they should be the ones taking care of him. Or hiring a nanny or a babysitter if they can't always be there for your brother. Not the a-hole. It is absolutely inappropriate for your parents to do this. I hate it when people pull a Duggar and make their older children raise the younger ones. I think it was very smart of you to go to your grandma, and you might want to live there through school. The nerve of your parents asking if you could shorten your course load and saying you need to be more understanding and accepting. Unbelievable. Now for the first update. Thank you to everyone who left comments. I feel more confident in my decision now. A couple of people said I needed to talk to my parents about a sitter or boundaries. I've tried before the last time, and they either brushed me off or said things like, "That costs so much money," and "But you do such a good job," and "You're the big sister. It's your duty to watch him." I looked up parentification since I'd never heard it before, and all the boxes were ticked. I had no idea. My grandmother is talking to an attorney and wants to set up an arrangement that will let me stay with her my last 2 years of high school. After I graduate, I plan to go to college in another state. Thank you again for your kind words. If something major happens, I'll let you all know. Best wishes to you and your brother. He's the most innocent of all in this mess. And I'm glad your grandma is there to look after you. If your parents try to cause problems, call CPS on them. Parentification is abuse and it's their child, not yours. I am sorry for your brother, but best of luck to you. You're doing the best to protect yourself. Second update. It's been a few weeks, but quite a bit has happened. I'll try my best to keep this concise. Once again, thank you for all your comments and support. That meant a lot to myself and my grandmother, who says hello. Firstly, my father managed to find my post despite my efforts. He told my mother about it, and they proceeded to blast me to the members of my extended family via social media, saying I made them look bad. She deleted the post a few hours later, according to my cousins who support me. A few days later, during a meeting between my parents and myself, my grandmother and our lawyer, my father, apologized to me, and I felt it was sincere. As for my mother, she was silently fuming. Matt was at their house with one of my aunts. They agreed, with great reluctance on my mother's end, to give my grandmother full custody of me of my remaining 3 years as a minor. The next day, my grandmother and some of my supportive family members helped me get what I had for belongings out of my parents' house. I didn't feel true relief until that moment. Now, I'm trying to enjoy my summer. I'm hanging out with friends, going swimming, I'm relaxing. I'm finally reading books I bought 3 years ago that I never got a chance to read. I'm planning extracurriculars for next semester and even planning a birthday party, my first in 3 years, for my sweet 16 in February. I'm also helping my grandmother around the house. I do chores, but this time I'm getting an allowance. Even my sleep has improved. It's a whole new way of living, and it's kind of overwhelming, but I've never been happier. Hopefully this is the last time I post. I'm going to log off Reddit and go out with my grandmother for some shopping. Thank you all. Enjoy being free, my friend. We need more grannies like yours. Good luck in life. Hopping onto the top comment to say that I love this so much. This is the childhood/adolescence you deserve. I'm so grateful for your grandmother for being in this world and doing right by you. Glad things worked out for you. One question, did you get your documents such as birth certificate and social security card? You will need those, and I don't really trust your mother. Grandma can order replacements for OP, assuming they get all the paperwork for legal custody, rather than just some kind of informal arrangement. OP mentions a lawyer. Guarantee it's all legal since there's one involved. If he's worth his chickens, He'll also make sure all the needed documents, birth certificate, social security card, etc. are all handed over too. It's nice if they hand them over, but getting new ones for a minor you have custody shouldn't be hard at all unless they were born off the grid in a cult or something. Guardians have to be able to do things like enroll kids in school, get medical treatment, help them get licensed to drive, etc. I'd be more concerned about the parents misusing them. Yes, replacements can be acquired, but most identity theft happens from family members. If things are so tight that parents are overusing the OP, I'd personally be concerned about identity theft for financial issues and probably some spite. Most family members get away with identity theft because people are reluctant to turn them in for it. There's not all that much stopping your parents from ordering a dozen certified copies of your birth certificate and handing them out in Times Square if they were so inclined. Most localities don't restrict parents from getting them regardless of the state of the relationship. All most people can realistically do is monitor their credit and dispute it if anything happens. There's a way to get your social security number changed if you end up being a repeat victim, but I've heard it's a really high bar. Am I the a-hole for returning my stepdaughter's birthday gift because she didn't save a cupcake for my daughter? I, female 33, am engaged to my fiancé, male 36. I have a 4-year-old daughter and he has a 16-year-old daughter. He comes from a conservative family, so we won't move in together till after marriage. So far, we're on good terms as a blended family. But I noticed that my stepdaughter acts kind of distant towards my daughter. Every time I try to talk to my fiancé about it, he'd tell me to give the kids a chance to bond and warm up to each other. My stepdaughter's 16th birthday took place on Sunday. Since she's into baking, she decided to bake cupcakes instead of having an actual birthday cake. My daughter and I went over to my fiancé's house to attend a party, and I brought my stepdaughter a gift, which was an iPhone. We sat down as she started serving everyone cupcakes. Then when it was my daughter's turn, she bluntly said she was sorry, but she didn't save any for my daughter. I felt confused. I asked if she made enough cupcakes and whether there were guests that came uninvited. She said no, and that she just didn't make one for my daughter. I asked why, but she refused to say. I was so mad and felt hurt on my daughter's behalf. I got up and told my fiancé that I wanted to leave. My fiancé tried to stop me and offered his cupcake to my daughter, but I refused to take it. On the way out, I grabbed the gift I brought for my stepdaughter and she stood there and watched. I could hear her yell, "Dad, she took the iPhone," while I was walking out with my daughter. My fiancé tried to get me to go back inside, but I refused. Later, he came over and we had an argument. He said that I overreacted, and that I know how some teenagers can be moody and do random stuff without an explanation, so I shouldn't have taken it personally. I said she excluded my daughter and didn't save her a cupcake, but he said it was just a cupcake, and then reminded me that he offered his cupcake and said I should have accepted it and called it a day. He said taking the iPhone, which was supposed to be a gift, back was poor taste, and it might hurt my relationship with his daughter. I refused to give it to him so he could give it to her since she was crying about it. He left and was mad at me. We haven't talked since then except via texts. Edit, she's been wanting the iPhone for a while, and since her dad couldn't buy it, I decided it'd be nice if I gifted it to her. For those who are asking how a teenager could own an iPhone, I'm sorry if it's uncommon where you live, but where I live, iPhone are the most common phones. Also, I saw that she served her girlfriend a whole plate of cupcakes, so it's not like she baked a specific number. Now for the top comments. Not the whole, and don't marry this man. He will clearly expect you to cater to his child at the expense of your own. This is who he is. Believe him and react accordingly. Yep, a 16-year-old is acting like this because she's been allowed to. And with only a few years before adulthood, the odds of her growing out of it aren't in OP's favor. You paid for an iPhone? Yeah, this really isn't about you being an a-hole in my opinion. It's not an overreaction when you feel like being disrespected and unappreciated. She left a 4-year-old out on purpose? Play stupid games, kiddo. Win stupid prizes. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but wake up. Why are you the one paying for the expensive gift? The iPhone should be a parent or a grandparent gift, not from you. Leaving was your only option at that point. It takes a special kind of ugly to want to exclude a 4-year-old little kid from a birthday celebration. If stepdaughter can verbalize that she intentionally did not make a cupcake for your daughter, she's old enough to understand why you left. Edit. The more I think about this, the worse it gets. The stepdaughter being a jerk is one thing, but the fiancé's reaction is unforgivable. I also wouldn't be able to get over his whole family standing by and acting as if a teen bullying a preschooler is no big deal. This man and his whole family showed you who they are. Believe them. OP, you need to put major brakes on this relationship. Keep your finances separate. Consider it a blessing in disguise that you haven't moved in together yet. Oh, and I think you should give your daughter the phone. Let her use it to watch Disney+. If you're not ready to break up, you should pull way back on the money you spent on your boyfriend. Are you paying for trips and little luxuries? Try taking a break for a few months and see how he reacts. Open your eyes. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepmom that if my relationship with my brother is weird, then hers with her son is even weirder? I, 17 female, cannot stand my dad's wife, Lou, 42 female. We've never gotten along, but she adores my brothers and, of course, her son, 13 male. She thinks I look like my mom who she hates, and I guess it's a contributing factor and means she's stuck looking at me when I'm at her place. But it's mostly because she likes validation of guys, and will bring any girl down if meant all the guys in her life would adore her. But I don't care because I don't bother her and she usually doesn't bother me unless we are arguing. Me and my older brother, Lyle, 25 male, have an amazing relationship. We're the closest in age, and if I ever have an issue, I go to him and like siblings do, we chill out in each other's room. Lou hates this and likes to barge in whenever she can to cause issues, and it causes arguments. But this one was the last straw. Me and Lyle were watching America's Got Talent auditions on YouTube, and Lou came home from work. I heard her talking to my dad, and he said I was here with Lyle. She immediately blew up and flew up the stairs and started screaming at me, telling me that she's sick to death of having to say that I'm not allowed boys in my room no matter if it's my brother. And this angered me, so I asked what she was insinuating, and she says, "You're literally in love with Lyle. You're always hugging and hiding up here, you sick little hooper." So I stood up and started yelling back, getting in her face, and said, "Don't freaking sexualize me and my brother just because you're the weirdo who wants her son and stepsons to be in love with her." I left after that, and my mom and her side of the family agree I acted fine. But my dad now won't talk to me, and I feel full of guilt. Edit. Just to say, guys, my brother, he called her the American version of Rosemary West. He can't stand her either. He has my back fully. And to my other brothers, one is in the military and is never home but doesn't know her, and the other is just civil with her but is nice. And he is unaware of what happened. Not the a-hole. Stepmom sounds like those parents who find anything wrong just to complain. But info, why do you still go to your dad's house? It sounds like he doesn't defend you at all. You seem old enough to say in court that you don't want to live with your dad. Good question. Me and my dad have a good relationship, and when me and Lou argue, unless I was the one who caused the drama, he had my back. But it is true, I could go to the courts. And with everything, it's definitely something I'm gonna do once I find out how I can get the wheels rolling. Not the a-hole. This is disgusting behavior from people that are supposed to be parental figures to you. And speak with your mom about staying there full-time because you shouldn't live with those types of people. Yeah, definitely. I've told her and she was ready for a fight. But I told her it's not worth it. So she's just gonna help me go to court and say I want to change the agreement to 50-50 custody. It's the last straw in my eyes. And I'm not gonna let some elderly woman sexualize me. Gross. Not the a-hole. What the heck is going on with your dad? Why is he allowing her to behave this way towards you and your brother? Good on you for standing up for yourself. This right here. You have a dad problem more than stepmom problem. If your dad had your back, your stepmom would never have talked to you in such a disgusting way. If I were you, I'd ask mom if she could petition for full custody and limit contact with dad and stepmom given their horrific accusations. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I don't want to name our child after her late husband? I'm 41 male, my wife is 38 female. She is pregnant with our first child together, and he was a big surprise. She is due in November. She has a daughter from her first marriage, 18 female, and goes to college now. I have a nephew, 16 male, who has lived with me since he was a toddler, and I consider him my kid. My wife and I got married 8 years ago. Her first husband died 15 years ago. We are finally making a short list of baby names for boys, and my wife has her heart set on Thomas, her first husband's name. I don't want to name our child after a deceased person because I feel that is just so much baggage to put on a child. I don't want it as a first or even a middle name. I told her that I am fine with whatever name, as long as he is named after someone. Anyone. She likes other names too. Daniel, Chris, James. I like them all.
I will love my son with any name. I just don't want to name him after her late first husband. We talked about it the other day and she told me all the reasons why she wants to name him Thomas. It will be her way of honoring him, of remembering him, it's a great name, etc. I think some of her reasons are super valid. I told her I really don't want our son to be named after her late husband. She said I am being insecure and jealous of a dead man. I said that is unfair to say. His picture is on the wall of our family pictures. We visit his grave together sometimes. His parents still come over to visit my wife sometimes. She still has her wedding ring from their wedding, though she doesn't wear it and wears a necklace he bought her. I'm okay with all of it. She said I am being a petty a-hole for not even wanting to use it as a middle name. Am I an a-hole here? Now for the top comments.
Not a-hole.
I'm a widow. Your wife didn't finish grieving her husband. She married you before she finished putting her first husband behind her. She's still grieving and hasn't moved on. This is why his picture is up. This is why she still wants to visit the grave. She isn't finished grieving the loss. It is a terrible idea to name him after her late husband. Your child will grow up with the baggage of being named after the man that was in mom's life before dad, you. She doesn't want to name him after you, but after her late husband. That tells me that she isn't over her late husband and you are playing a second fiddle to a ghost. The child will eventually ask how he got his name. It seems to me that she wishes her late husband was the father of her soon-to-be son and not you. It seems like you are standing for the late husband. She was 23 when her husband died. She still longs for the marriage that could have been, but it wasn't because of his early death. The name is her way of keeping her late husband alive. This is absolutely cruel to you as you are the boy dad, not the late husband. You have been married to your wife for longer than she was married to her first husband. So when does she put the first husband on the past as a distant fond memory? He is not in the past if she is visiting his grave and visiting with his parents. When my husband passed, our son was a teen. I know a lot of widowed people. After my mom passed, my dad's childhood sweetheart, she was always first. He visited her grave, etc. He had girlfriends as companions because he needed a sidekick. One girlfriend was desperate to marry. When he finally said that's not happening, she left. He stopped dating because he couldn't put someone else first as a partner. You have a bigger problem than the name of your child.
Not a-hole.
And considering his memories included already in your family life, I don't think there's any jealousy. Not naming your kid after a dead person is perfectly sensible. Not naming your child after a partner's former partner is sensible. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole. She doesn't need to honor him by naming the child with her new husband after the old one. She needs to let go. She needs to know that the other things she's already doing are ways of remembering him. But she also needs to remember that if it weren't for his passing and then meeting you, that this baby would have never happened. The deceased husband will have no emotional or sentimental connection to your new baby. He'll be nothing to the child. Sorry. It would be weird for her to push him onto the future upbringing of your child. She's maybe feeling guilty for moving on and starting another family. Whatever's going on in her head, the baby and you are in the now. All the best, Opie. And she's robbing her daughter of being able to name her future children after her own father. I think it's really sad that your stepdaughter is going to have his sibling who isn't related to her own father, that your wife wants to have Carrie's name. Is the stepdaughter even on board with the name? Because I can see that souring her relationship with her mom if she's not. Now for the last story, am I the a-hole for responding to my step and half siblings the way I did? This is about me, 16 female, step-siblings 15 male and 14 female, and half-sister 7 female. So my dad died when I was 8. He and my mom were already separated at a time and she was already with her husband. I had never met him or his kids before, but his kids knew my mom. I struggled a lot with my dad being gone, and having these new people thrust into my life, with my mom's husband, then boyfriend, living with me, and trying to parent me. I struggled with her telling me I had siblings now. Then 3 days after I lost my dad, she told me she was pregnant. She and her husband were only together a few months by then, but she was pregnant. They were living together and then they decided to rush getting married so she could have his insurance. The whole thing was a lot. Early on, my step-siblings were really dismissive and mean about my dad. They'd tell me I was depressing everyone. They called me a baby because I wouldn't take off my dad's watch, which I have worn all the time since he died, for her wedding and the photos. Take into account she got married less than 2 months after he died. They would get mad when I would ask to have photos of my dad in the house. They told me he wasn't part of the family and that he'd be forgotten. I think my stepsister was copying her brother, but having both of them say mean stuff was a lot. I told my mom about it only after they told me their dad was adopting me. I got so upset. Mom told me she and her husband would take care of it. For a few years it stopped. It started again about 3 years ago, and it was because I wouldn't join them for a Father's Day thing at their dad's work. He took them and half-sister, but I said no to going. They told me I should be treating him like a dad. They taunted me that I didn't have one if I wouldn't let him be my dad. The last few months, it's been worse, and my half-sister joins in. They have said how they're glad my dad is dead, and how I make everyone miserable so I don't deserve a dad. My stepbrother said my dad was dumb, that he was a freak and people like him didn't belong in the world. We got into a fight. My stepsister told me my dad's death was the best thing that would ever happen, and I then yelled out that I would feel the same way when their dad died. That maybe I should throw a party and celebrate when it happens because they deserve it, and I freaking hate them. My mom and her husband overheard, so crap hit the fan. They got in trouble for what they had been saying. So did I. My mom's husband was extra angry at me though. He told me how ungrateful I was, and how dare I speak like that to his kids, to hurt them like that, to wish that on them. And how dare I feel that way about him, when unlike his kids to my dad, he is actually my parent and my family, and I should not be comparing things at all. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The fact that he stood by while his kids said that to you? Unbelievable. It was only a matter of time before you blew up because of them. They should be so ashamed for being so insensitive. Just because your dad wasn't theirs does not give them the right nor audacity to tell you how to grieve a loving one. Your sister is slow for joining in, and they all need a reality check. He and I have had our own challenges. I know he's not super happy that I didn't want to be adopted by him and that I never started to call him dad or honor him for Father's Day. It really bothered him that I would still be happy to see photos of my dad in the house. Just lots of stuff. It's why I don't even say anything anymore about what they're doing. Mom can only do so much, but I think he kind of agrees with his kids, and should never divorce or convince him to do more. If anything, we'd all end up in therapy together, and we hate each other too much for that to ever do any good. It's such a mess. It's not your fault. He can't force you to like him or make you treat him like a dad, especially when he acts the way he does. I hope for your sake things get better. Thanks. I think it will eventually, but probably not until I'm out of my mom's house.